I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm giving my unsolicited thoughts and opinions on the Elden Ring gameplay trailer. Because with the DLC trailer itself, plus Miyazaki's recent interview with Eurogamer, there's a lot to be excited about. We're all dying to get our hands on Shadow of the Erdtree, and speculation is running rampant for the next few months as time will tick down. And you know what? I am already sold. I don't need to see any more gameplay. I'd rather go in blind and have a good time. If you want my live reaction, complete with a face reveal regarding the trailer, click the video link at the top of the description. Apparently everyone thought I was gonna look like a twink. Someone even said they thought I'd look like Timothée Chalamet, but I guess my beard and the leather jacket threw people off a bit. Anyway, without further ado, here are the 5 things I'm excited for about the Elden Ring DLC. Number 1, a new open world to explore. Shadow of the Erdtree sees us being taken to the realm of Shadow. As we saw from the trailer, the area is quite vast, containing a range of biomes including haunted grasslands, fiery caverns, mystical ruins, towering structures, and much more. Miyazaki describes the size of the map as being comparable to the entirety of Limgrave's surface area from the base game. Whether that includes the Weeping Peninsula, I'm not sure, but something tells me that Miyazaki might be downplaying the size of the new explorable zone a bit. After all, Elden Ring, like Dark Souls, is a game that was built on its verticality. Throughout the game, you were always rising higher in the lands between to reach your goal, and based on everything we've seen of the Realm of Shadow, it feels like a land converged on top of each other, reminiscent of Dark Souls 3's themes. Perhaps it won't take long to get from one end of the map to the other, but that won't account for those peaks and valleys where more optional content will lie. This is further enhanced by Miyazaki explaining that their approach to field design has evolved. In the base game, it was obvious when you were approaching a legacy dungeon versus a field area, but for the DLC, they've purposefully wanted to blend those boundaries. We're still going to have field areas, legacy dungeons, etc., but the transitions between the two might feel smoother, less jarring. I always think of Rhea Lucaria and how you have to use a teleport gate to even enter the academy from the base game. I'm just excited for more legacy dungeons, to be honest. They're some of the best designed areas in the Souls series. Stormvale Castle, Volcano Manor, Crumbling Farum Azula, Lanedell. If we get areas on par with those, we're in for a real treat. Given they use the terms denser and richer level design, it makes me hopeful that the open world portion of the DLC will still be filled with things to do, field bosses, mini dungeons, maybe a few new Everjails, or even some new mechanic related to the DLC. The possibilities are endless. Number 2, perhaps the most important aspect of any From Software DLC, the bosses. The company now known far and wide for their boss roster has a lot to live up to. There was a lot of criticism of Elden Ring's boss fights, what with the main story fights living up to expectations in epic cinematic ways, but the game ultimately being bogged down by a lot of padding and a lot of boss reusage. And concerns, at least from my part, that we're hitting a ceiling in terms of boss difficulty, which remains fair and fun for the player. Long-time viewers know that while I enjoy Malenia Blade of Miquella, I lean on the side of that fight being too unbalanced for me to find it repeatably enjoyable. Still, having recently played through Armored Core 6, I would trust From Software with boss fights any day. They're spectacles featuring the craziest designs imaginable. We've got the new Regent Lion that shoots thunder, which many are theorizing comes from the same line as Sarosh, the Regent above Godfrey's shoulder. There's the giant Fire Brazier, which looks like it'll be one hell of a field boss to take down. And of course, Mesmer the Impaler, a brand new character who I'll touch on in a later segment of the video, but one with such a fun design. You can tell he's likely just the first major story boss of the DLC. FromSoft will likely keep their cards close to their chest in that sense, they always do. There are over 10 new boss fights to encounter according to Miyazaki, though whether that includes field bosses or everything with a boss health bar, we're not going to know until launch. Given most other From Software DLCs only ever give us around 4 to 5 new bosses total, the fact this number is doubled is a seriously exciting prospect. I am so looking forward to remaking my Elden Ring boss ranking. Shadow of the Erdtree, like every FromSoft DLC, is balanced around endgame difficulty, and they also confirm there is at least one boss fight in the DLC on par with Melania. My hope is that they learned from what they did right and what they could have done better to create a boss fight that will blow us away. As traditionally, the DLC bosses in Soulsborne games tend to end up being the most memorable experiences. Off the top of my head, Artorias, Sorolon, the Fume Knight, Lady Maria, Ludwig, Slave Knight Gale, Sister Fried, I could go on. Number 3, let's talk about weapons, because bosses are fun and all, but they mean nothing if we don't get a fun roster of weapons to fight against them with. And based on the trailer, we have a lot to look forward to. We'll likely be seeing a whole host of new Ashes of War to equip to our weapons. I suspect that's what that kick combo attack was. Beyond that, we've got a crossbow that fires bolts like a machine gun, new sorceries and incantations that include that faint pink butterfly-looking attack, and perhaps most excitingly of all, the pot bombs we can craft, which have seemingly expanded in size. In fact, I noticed throughout the DLC there was a surprisingly heavy focus on pots. Could we be seeing lore dedicated to the warrior jars? I'd love to find out. I'm not an expert in the different weapon types of Elden Ring. I'm the sort of player who finds something that works and then I just stick with it the whole game. But there's something about Elden Ring making it so easy to respec that makes trying out new builds worthwhile. Obviously, we're going to need to stock up on our weapon upgrade materials so we can try out all the new stuff. I'm praying the DLC gives us a hefty amount of plus 10 upgrade materials. I think it's just important. What makes me most excited for this DLC though is that Miyazaki confirmed there are 8 new weapon categories. Not 8 new weapons, 8 new weapon categories. And each of those categories could realistically have a couple of weapons to a dozen or more if we're lucky. I'm hoping we get a weapon type like that boomerang we see used at one point in the trailer. That's very much my type of ranged bullshit. Beyond that, I just want to see weapons that are both viable in PvE and PvP. Now, I don't really mess around with the multiplayer in these games. I'm in it for that single player journey, so just being able to use fun weapons with fun movesets on bosses is enough for me. But I recognize that with people playing the game again, PvP does need to have its focus, and if we can get some well-designed weapons that don't break the PvP scene, I'll consider it a win. I wonder if we'll get another PvP-style boss fight in this DLC though, food for thought. Hey viewers, a brief moment of your time. It's February, I'm officially moved to my new home, but the journey for 20,000 subscribers before summer of 2024 doesn't stop here. Take a look at how many of you aren't subscribed, kinda crazy, right? So be sure, if you enjoy the rest of this video, to parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future rankings and videos. Back to the list. Number 4, let's talk lore. Straight away, we know exactly how we're going to access the DLC based on dialogue in the trailer. You have to defeat Mohg, Lord of Blood, which will allow us access to Miquella's withered arm, and this will allow us to transport to the Land of Shadow. I think a lot of us predicted this after it was revealed the DLC would involve Miquella, and they all but spell it out for us at the start of the trailer by showcasing Miquella's egg. But what is the Land of Shadow? Is it Miquella's dreamscape, a place that we've been taken to where Miquella's consciousness resides? I don't think so. In Miyazaki's interview with Eurogamer, they discussed whether George R.R. Martin returned to create the lore for the DLC setting, but the answer we got suggests a different concept altogether. Rather than creating new lore, this DLC is actually being based around pre-existing lore that Martin developed while working on Elden Ring's original story. All From Software are doing is just choosing to flesh it out and give it form. There are multiple characters shown in the trailer, and theories are already floating around. Some believe we'll see more of the gloam-eyed queen found within the lore of the Godskins. Then there's Messmer the Impaler, whom keen-eyed lore buffs have already figured out is most likely the character who impaled the giants on the mountaintops and stole away their fire. The weapons embedded in those corpses are reminiscent of the designs of the weapons in Messmer's arena. And given he wields that red flame, which is very reminiscent of the Fell God's flames, I mean, come on. On Bandai Namco's official site, we actually have this text: "Fall from grace. the Land of Shadow, a place obscured by the Erdtree, where the goddess Marika first set foot, a land purged in an unsung battle set ablaze by Mesmer's flame. It was to this land that Miquella departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. And now Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord. I think connections are starting to form. I won't pretend to know any more lore than that at this point, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this DLC's lore and plot plays out, because it may be able to enlighten us to certain mysteries in the base game as well. More than anything though, I want to know about Miquella. After all, the narration of the trailer does say, "I presume you too are keen to know just what kind Miquella is doing here." And yet, as the Eurogamer article states, is Miquella truly that kind? Will they be an ally in whatever our goal is, or will we ultimately end up facing them in battle? I really hope it's the latter. And number 5, perhaps the most important aspect of this DLC that I and many others remain so excited for. There's a new poison swamp ready to be unleashed! Eurogamer just had to ask Miyazaki if another poison swamp would be featured in the DLC, and Miyazaki not only confirmed it, but also had a really deep answer. In a word, yes. But this was actually a point of introspection for me after creating the base game. It was only after creating it that I realized I really like to create poison swamps, and this was a little place of introspection and reflection for me, so maybe when players reach the poison swamp in the DLC, they will feel a little bit of this retrospection. Miyazaki has truly gone off the deep end with this one. I don't think I've ever seen anyone more passionate about a meme topic in the community, and yet as a poison swamp aficionado, I've done a ranking video on the topic which you can find in the description. I can't help but hope that this next poison swamp is able to topple the rest and become a new Magnum Opus. I'd love to see a poison swamp themed legacy dungeon, because I genuinely think combining that concept with the tight interconnected level designs of something like Stormvale or the Volcano Manor could create a poison swamp that everyone actually likes. On the flip side, I fear for the possible outcome that the swamp ends up being a Deathblight swamp. We can see a lot of roots and tendrils throughout the Land of Shadow that are reminiscent of Godwin's blasphemous status effect, and I don't think I'd be able to cope if that were the case, given I just cannot stand Deathblight. Whatever happens, we don't have long to wait, just 4 months to prepare for Elden Ring's DLC, and whatever comes after. Shadow of the Erdtree is priced at $39.99 across all platforms, which is a hefty price compared to FromSoft's past DLC efforts. But what's interesting is how a majority of the gaming populace isn't even bothered by the steep asking price, because From Software have managed to earn that trust with their consumers, that unspoken contract that their DLC will live up to the price and will be worth jumping in to play. From my part, it's probably going to be one of the biggest gaming experiences of the year for me, and it will pay for itself, as the videos I make on the Elden Ring DLC are going to make that money back. So for me, it's a win-win scenario as a creator. But what about all of you? What are you most looking forward to from Shadow of the Erdtree? Let me know down below, and be sure to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my future weekly Soulsborne, Souls-like, and other videos. My socials are on screen now, feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I recommend my Twitter, my Blue Sky, or my Discord. I'm not terribly active on any of them, but hey ho, you have to have them. A massive shout out to my YouTube channel members. It's $4.99 a month. You guys are amazing for supporting me, and if anyone else wants to become a YouTube channel member, you get your name in the description at the end of each video, and on specific Tuesday videos, you will get early access to watch them. Very fun stuff. And a massive shout out to my patrons over on Patreon who are supporting me there. You guys are amazing as well, though I will be phasing my Patreon out towards the middle half of the year as I move solely into the YouTube side of things. So thank you everyone for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Adios.